In this video, we're going to take a look at the motion capture import and cleanup capabilities of Character Studio 4. First thing I'm going to do is build a standard biped. We're going to use this to load the motion onto. You'll also notice that I've got an additional bone on here, which is actually a prop. If I look at the settings, we can now have up to 3 props built onto the biped. This is new to Character Studio 4, and these props will then automatically inherit any prop data in the mocap file. So let's just take this guy and go and load some mocap onto him. So I'm just going to go in, we're going to pick prop 2 CSM. We can also pull in BVH files and of course the native BIP files for Character Studio. And just say open. We then get this dialog which allows us to convert the mocap. First thing it allows us to do is set up whether we want to do footstep extraction. At the moment I don't want to. We can also set it to do any key reduction, which I don't really need at this point. And then we have a number of extra controls that will control this actual key reduction. At this point I'm just going to leave it as it is and say OK. So we've now pulled in complete raw mocap. I can hit play and you can actually see it shuffle through. So what I want to do at this point now is do some cleanup on this and just adjust it to match our character a little better. So the first thing you'll often have to do is just check the actual markers themselves. You want to see how your character relates to the markers that came from the file. Well, these are actually showing you the position of those markers. I can now decide if maybe the markers in the file don't really match up with my biped. For instance, maybe the knees are a little bit off. I can go in and just simply rotate them a little bit to throw them back into position. And once I've done that, I just turn off that mode and it'll recalculate and calibrate the character. So once I've got that, I can now decide, okay, let's just convert it from the buffer, and this time I now want to extract to footsteps and I want to use key reduction. I can then adjust the actual degree of key reduction on any given limb. If I decide that, for instance, the spine is very crucial, I can even turn off key reduction on just that one piece. In this case, let's just say OK. So it's now done the reduction. I'm just going to turn off the markers. So now we can see our character, and you can see how he's been cleaned up. I can look at any one of these limbs. You can see significantly fewer keyframes are now available on this object. Now that we've loaded the motion into Character Studio, I want to save this out as a BIP file, which will then allow me to transfer this motion to any other character regardless of size or shape. So in this case, we're going to save it as prop 2. I'm going to save the entire segment of animation. In Character Studio 4, we also have an additional feature which allows us to save other max objects with the biped file. What this allows us to do is deal with things like, for instance, a set of wings created with max IK that may be attached to the character. Those would then rescale to the new character they were loaded onto automatically. So we're just going to save this. The last thing we want to do is then take the motion we've created and load it onto this character and make any final adjustments which may be appropriate to the build of the character itself. The character you're seeing is Kate. She is out of the game Siberia, created by a game company called Microids. And we're going to use her as the example in this particular shot. Alright, so let's load the motion onto this character. Grab that motion there. And we're going to make any little adjustments we need to make this work. So the first thing I want you to notice is that, of course, the prop is not visible. It's because this particular biped didn't have it turned on. So I can simply go in and say I need one prop on. Jump back out of that mode, and now our prop is in the hands of the character. Now this is where I want to point out a couple things that are unique to Character Studio in Release 4. One of the major things is the actual way we deal with props. If I go in here and look, we actually have a prop section, and the prop actually knows where it is and how it's rotating. So at the moment it happens to know what's in the left hand, so all its position, space, orientation is based on the left hand. However, when we imported the mocap, it did analyze where the prop went. And you'll notice now, as the right hand reaches over and grabs it, it switches position space to the right hand. This allows for much more flexibility in interpreting prop data onto different sized characters, as it actually understands where the prop is and how it has to be used. Now, before we take this motion and put it on a real character, what we want to do is just analyze it for any little issues, bobbles, weird things where the knees might hyperextend, the typical stuff that may happen in a mocap session. So to do that, we've added a new system into Character Studio 4 called Workbench. Now what Workbench does is give us an interface for doing just that type of analysis. To start off, you can go and look at any particular part of the character. Right now I happen to be looking at the hand. I can not only look at the actual curves for that object, so here you're seeing the 3 curves, but I can also look at a number of other types of curves. For instance, a curve that'll define the rotational speed. This is really handy if you are looking for different flaws in a character. You may actually see sudden changes in speed, and those might represent actual issues. Other things, acceleration. And of course, jerk, which is how fast something might change direction. And again, this gives you an idea of where there might be problems. You'll notice that we have speed, acceleration, and jerk curves for rotation and position, giving you ultimate flexibility in how you want to look at your data. Not only can we analyze it manually by looking through the curves, we also have the ability to analyze automatically. So I can actually go in and say I want to analyze the selected part for the entire animation. I'm looking for noise, spikes, knee extensions or knee wobbles in the case of legs, and it'll go and find those issues. Once it's found them, it highlights them in the fix area, where I can then decide how to fix these. I could of course fix it manually, or if I think that it's a simple enough fix, I could actually have the system go through and remove the problems themselves. So for instance, I could have it go and do some smoothing or blurring. I could have it directly remove the keys, or adjust the actual constraints to fix knee extension and wobble. Once that's all done, I can then go through and, on average, filter out the entire animation. If, for instance, I got some bad magnetic data that's got a little bit of jitter to it, I can do a general smooth on the whole curve to try and remove that data.